Hey everybody, and welcome to the EV Cafe Takeaway. Yep, we're back. It's that podcast with that zero emission focused on that zero emission that we're all hoping for. Absolutely. Every week I get joined by one of the wonderful members of the team, and this week is a very regular member of the team, and that's John. JC, welcome back.
I've been called far worse than regular.
Indeed, and often by me. But we're a bit excited this day. So we, as you know, we always talk to the pioneers, the collaborators, the innovators in our industry, and we've got someone back. And the reason we've got someone back is because, well, they're just carrying on, innovating and pioneering and collaborating. And it's Fraser Crichton, everybody, from Dundee City Council. Woo-hoo! Fraser, welcome back.
Oh, thank you very much. Thanks for inviting me back. It's quite a surprise to get invited back, but really appreciated. I think. Do you want me to just give a quick? First of all, as you say, I'm back.
Yes. What did you talk about the first time?
So the first time I gave a overview of 14 years of my life of implementing infrastructure and vehicles at Dundee City Council. I'm the fleet manager there. So if anybody wants to find out about that journey, watch episode 1. So this is basically...
Yeah, well, it's not episode 1. You've now challenged me, Fraser, because I can't remember what actual episode it was. So whilst we're talking, I will discover what the episode it is. I think JC's on it. I think he's got his finger on the pulse. So that it was a great chat. And you know, Fraser, the reality is you've been doing this for 14 years and more, now 15 probably, and you've achieved one heck of a lot in a very difficult difficult environment. Now, Scotland is a little bit ahead, it has to be said. They've led the way, and just give us a quick snapshot as to where you got to a year ago. And what was the key reason for sort of coming out at that point to tell us, you know, we've achieved this? What was in progress?
Yeah, so as you pointed out, and I said in the last time I was on, 14 years is a long time, and it's just been that journey. I think we're probably really early adopters, especially here in Dundee. My focus, I said at the very beginning, it still is the air quality situation, and we progressed on learnings, but different than most places, I looked at the whole thing holistically. I looked at on the city, not just on my local authority vehicles, because you know, I could only achieve X amount change in mine. If the real key to this is how do you get everybody to move over to e-mobility. So I built hubs, charging EV hubs that you're seeing all the time being built now around the UK. Now I built 3 of them in 2018. So again, right at the start, but the difference, as we talked about before, was that I always had in the back of my mind, where is this energy coming from for this to feed the e-mobility? So it was always that renewable energy angle. I was always thinking in my head, you know, there's going to need a lot of power here to power these vehicles, and where are we going to get that energy from? So from the very beginning, I was thinking solar energy, wind turbines, all that sort of stuff to feed this. So where we are at the moment is, as you know, we've had grants from the UK government. We get through the Scottish government as well, and when we were in the EU, we got EU money as well. So that we managed to capture quite a lot of that. Just as you talked about, looking at innovation, looking at what's coming through, pop-up charging. Innovation, looking at that sort of renewable solar piece around the energy. Now, we were very lucky to get all that sort of funding, but really where we've got to now is, obviously we're all aware of the situation in the country financially. So we're basically being told we need to embrace with the private industry We cannot keep using taxpayers' money to fund all this. So we need to start looking towards a partnership, as best word I could use, with the
Fraser,
private sector.
Let me just explain for those who aren't familiar with the Scottish setup as it's been. There were about 400 private and public sector owners of charge points that came together under the Scottish government to be known as Charge Place Scotland, a unifying system so you could go nationally across the country and use chargers. There's been a development over the last 18 months or so where the Scottish government have said, we're not in the business of running charge points. We need to back away from this, and we need to let the market take over so that we have a public and private collaboration to fund public charging in Scotland. And you are leading the way in transitioning from a relatively wholly provided for by taxes system to a bringing in private sector and the right private sector partners.
Yeah, that's spot on, John. And to put this into context, this where we are now. We're very close. I mean, we're talking about hopefully this will be concluded next month. But this has taken a year and a half to do. And I think an earlier conversation that we had was we've managed to take the easy low fruit, which is, putting hubs in. It doesn't sound easy, but if you know what I mean, if people are in this world, where this is now the difficult piece. This is the bit where you have got two different, you've got private and public having different, one's looking for a profit, the other is having to pay back their taxpayers. They're getting taxpayers' money, so they're looking after people. The other person's looking after shareholders. So there's two different worlds. I'm not against either of them, but the two of them are clashing together like plates, and there's a bit of friction, shall we say. So the word compromise is very apt here. We need to make sure that if we go into an agreement, it's certainly got to be long term. So we're looking for a 20-year contract here. And this long-term contract is in order so that the private sector can see the returns. They can see. Now, there's no point us going into this and saying, you know what, we want all this, and that company, whoever it might be in 10 years' time, goes, this is not feasible. We cannot. So it needs to work for both. And I really think this is the way to go forward. I think that if we think that just letting the private sector loose in this side, they'll get bits of it right. Now, I'm not saying, so if you're the main highways going right through the middle of this country, put charging hubs in there, fine, crack on, it works. Private investment, you'll see the return. Once it starts getting into rural areas, once it starts getting into what target markets are you looking for? Like the one I always use is our taxi industry. Now, I know the taxi industry, in Dundee, I know the routes that they take. Now, a charging hub on the major artery going through Dundee is not the right place to put infrastructure. But we might have land within here and work together with the private industry in order to capture that and target that area that is one of the most biggest pollutants in the city. So it's that sort of collaboration that really is the focus now. And hopefully we'll get this over the line. And I think it'll obviously be smoother as well, because what you tend to get now, there's no criticism, after watching what I'm saying, there's no criticism of government funding and grants and things like that. But they tend to be, well, there you go, there's the money, and you got 12 months to spend that money and get everything in the ground, go, right? By the time you strategize and you plan it, you're down to 6 months. By the time SSE's in there, and it's always on catch-up because you're getting these block grants for a year or so. Whereas this has that feeling of, we've got 20 years, whoa, let's just take our time to get this right. Don't put charging infrastructure in where you think in the end there is nobody going to use it. and I've seen that. Or we're going to put stuff in the ground and make sure it's maintained and serviced because we've got this contract. We've got a one-stop shop. Who you phone in? It's simplistic for the user. Picks up the phone. He knows that in Dundee, that's the number. He's going to get somebody out. It's that sort of joined up thinking that now this is where we are now.
And I mean, Fraser, that you make a really excellent point, because if I was a charge point operator, a CPO as they're often known, I wouldn't stick charge points dotted around the North Coast 500. In places like Pullew or Durness, or as you go around the North Coast 500. Yet in Scotland, that is the case. There is charge points as you go around under that sort of private public partnership, and I think that is the solution, isn't it? Where a contract, it's like the bus routes almost, where a contract says like you get the Dundee city centre back to the burbs, the bits around the outside and the busy routes. But in order to do that, you also get a local route that is from one village to another village to another village to another village, which might only have ever 3 people on it. And it's that's the real skill here. And I'm really excited about this. How is it going? Getting these two monoliths together and just kind of smashing them into each other. How is that process working for you, and how long does it take?
Yeah, so what you really have to do is I've seen this, and I think I talked about this the last time, and we're all aware of this, is that tenders go out to some councils, and nobody bids for them because they're just not fit for purpose. I mean, we've really had to do a lot of due diligence pre even putting anything out to understand. I've got an idea of how it works with a private CPO, but actually, let's sit down here. What are you looking for before it even gets to this point? Speak to as many CPOs as possible and say, what is it you're offering? Let's get past we will come in and spend loads of money. Don't you have to worry. We'll just sit back and watch us put all these charges in. We've hopefully got past all that sort of rhetoric of each company trying to outbid each other. It's now down to the nitty gritty. And what is it that you feel that the council can offer you, and what do you want, and what can you give us back in response to that? Now, everyone is going to also be different, so that's why you need to have that big conversation. Because we're, as you pointed out, we're 14 years into this. I have revenue coming through. I have infrastructure. There's some places that have hardly got anything still, and they're starting off from ground zero. But there's always something to offer. There's always so that'll be a different deal. But I do think that once we've done this one in Dundee, I think the conversation will then expand to Perth, Kinross, our rural areas round about us, to see how we can then, as you pointed out, how do you get that sort of rural charging infrastructure to put all the jigsaw together, the pieces together? And I think that, as always, when you start something, everybody goes right and starts really getting excited about it. And, well, I'll do this, the whole of Scotland, the whole of England. Slow down. I'm going to do it in Dundee. Let's see about slowly expanding it. Nothing good is done in haste, as my dad constantly tells me. So you really just need to work through this. We can do it as usual. We seem to be a wee bit further than others ahead. Learn by the mistakes that we've made. I mean, we have made mistakes in this process, assuming that, look at us, we've got all this charging infrastructure, everybody will come and see us. That's not been the case. The market is now thinking, right, a wee bit more cautious and going, where are we going to get our returns? So it's essential to have that conversation before you even go out to tender.
So, Fraser, you're one of the world's leading experts, and I don't overstate that. I mean, you're award-winning. Well, you are. I mean, you're award-winning across the globe. You've won Japanese awards. The Japanese look at Dundee and say, you are leading the way. What are the key things that you have learned, those key mistakes that have helped inform the delivery of the very best in the world?
Yeah, I spoke about this in the last one. So it go. It's not rocket
the
science.
last one.
It's not rocket.
The last one. Whilst you mention it, episode 50. For anybody who's interested, episode 50 on our website, evcafe.org. Go to podcasts. Episode 50. Fraser dispelling myths and giving lots of wisdom. Sorry to interrupt, mate. Go for it.
That's all
about
right.
a year ago then.
Yeah, I think I had less hair then. But however,
we all did
because I need a haircut. But so my thread's away there. Yes, I've got it. I mean, the real thing is, and it's not rocket science. It's the engagement with the public, the people. So the people that pay me, the taxpayers. If you forget to keep communicating there, because we're a long way from where we need to be. I mean, John and I've known Paul as well, you guys for years now. We know we're in this. We understand it. We can see it forward. But the lay person out there is still getting thrown this narrative about the reason why this country's a mess because our net zero policy. If we got rid of the net zero policy, everything would be bright. The sun would come out and we'd all be loaded. Absolute nonsense. But that's what's getting fed at the moment, and I can see even more down south. And we need to get to the point of just saying to them, this is why we're doing it. And do you agree with why we're doing it? Argue back if you want, but this is why we're putting this infrastructure in. This is why you need to move over. And it's constant. And you guys at EV Cafe are at the vanguard of that. And you see it all the time where you're just getting pushed back and you're going, I don't even understand why I'm getting pushed back, but there's a long way to go because people hate change. And I think that conversations, and you've got to get the right people that you're speaking to, is probably when it comes to not the public, when you start talking to who you want to partner up with. The amount of people that I've seen in this industry, you guys have seen this industry, and they're no longer here. They're not dead or anything. They've just moved on to somewhere else. And you go, they told me 10 years ago that they knew the answer and they had it all, and this is all you had to do. And they wrote this strategy, and where are they now? So you've got to make sure that you've got the right people, and you talk to people that think that you're in it for the long term. You know who you're what you're talking about, and you're adding value. So those two sorts of sets of people, do not underestimate the public. Do not discard them in any way. You make sure whether it's the guy who's got a Fiat Uno still and he's been running it for 25 years, or whether there's a guy that's running about in a Tesla. They're all relative. It's all relative. You actually need to be targeting the guy with the Fiat Uno, not the guy with the Tesla, because he's got it, and that's really where you need to get to.
It's an exciting sort of journey that we have ahead of us, and what we don't need is the naysayers of doom, like you've just suggesting that the minute that we continue down this net zero policy, we're all going to be done and finished. We'll be bankrupt before we know it. But what's most disappointing is that's not the conversation down the pub of people that know no better. This is educated people at the vanguard of politics, according to, and it's like, hang on. You did go to school, right? You actually went to university. You can read the IPCC reports. You can see the science for yourself, and yet you still suggest the Earth is flat. What's that about? So I think we're better off addressing the public, aren't we? I think they've got a better picture of it.
I think, and I had a conversation the other day with you, and I think that the phrase I used was, it's never too late to learn from other countries and other people. If we forget that at our peril, we think, right, we've been doing this now for 10 years. We must know everything. Well, we don't. And all you need to do is, and we're terrible for that in this country, for looking at ourselves and thinking, yeah, we're doing brilliant. But there's so many other places, and I know Norway comes up all the time, but that's for a good reason. And it's a good reason is because when I hear somebody saying, oh, we can't do that, and I'm like, well, please look at this photograph in Norway. They did this 3 years ago. And I think that there's one of the things I've also noticed, and it's probably COVID related, and we haven't really come back to this, is that sort of more international engagement. I think pre that there was more I've been on trips to Norway and Scandinavian countries and learnt from them, and they've actually learnt from us as well. But there's what I'm finding now is there's a lot of just us in this country meeting up with us again and talking about what we've got, when in actual fact there's, I know many people from America, Australia, they've got really brilliant ideas that can probably tap into some of these ideas I got from Australia. I thought, my God, Cornwall, that would just lap up in Cornwall, but we don't seem to have that same international engagement going forward, and I think we're lost that. But going back to it, I think the government still have a big role to play here, in that when you talk about net zero and when they go on the attack on that, there is no doubt that the vehicles, especially when they get to a certain level, not small cars, not small vans, they're making it, as you know, Paul, very well. It's when you start getting into the bigger stuff, which are the ones that are really on, for the air quality to improve it. When you get to that, the differential is just too much. And we can put as much infrastructure in place, but it's no use, as I keep on saying, if you're not using it. And we need to find a clever way of getting to that differential down. And we need to also do a clever way of figuring out pricing as well to against the diesel and Donald Trump's drill, because and it can be done in clever ways. What I find is, we again back to that scenario of let's do this big huge project. I mean, I saw the Scottish First Minister was about a month ago. He was in Glasgow, and Glasgow have developed a company, and there are other ones, Cab Direct, have developed a Ford Maxi Pro, and they've made it into a black London taxi. Now, the cost of that, I am not going to say that, but it is pretty high, right? Now, there is X amount of taxi drivers in Scotland, but most of them drive in the city centre, where we try to get the pollution down. So to me, why don't we look at that and try and get that cost of that vehicle that is built in Glasgow, is converted in Glasgow, so there's jobs involved in it, and try and look at the cost of that and then roll it out into Scotland and stuff like that will have huge benefits rather than, and it's little things rather than, because I know the situation, and that kind of, the stuff like that, I always think that don't give up. There's so many things that we can do that really will make a difference.
And I think that's where we're at now, isn't it? Because obviously, in the last 12 months, Fraser, a lot has been going on. Both, we'll perhaps come on to this later personally, but also in this business world that we find ourselves in. What is it that gets you up over these last 12 months? What has been really exciting you, and what is it that really is kind of getting your juices flowing right now?
It's actually twofold, and it's both positive and negative. I look at what we've done, and I think, I'll go to like our hub, and I'll see, 3 second-hand EVs getting charged up by university students. And I think back to when we were looking at all this, and everybody said, "Oh, they'll never. The second-hand market's a disaster." And when I see that happening, you go, right, okay, smugly, you just sit to yourself and you go, "Gotta got that right." And then the other thing is, then when you've got people in front of you challenging you still on the, as we talked about before, why were we doing this? This is crazy. My diesel vehicle works perfectly and it doesn't cost me. I just keep on going, well, I've got to convince that person, not by badgering them, not by doing it, by actions, that this is the way forward. So those two things kind of drive you. They're opposites, but they drive you forward. For me, anyway.
Fraser, what's your experience of your own fleet? So Dundee City Council have been saying the right things for many, many years and delivering the right things for the taxpayers of Dundee. But you've also been cleaning up your own act, and you've been giving those vehicles, commercial vehicles, a lot of them, to your own drivers, your own staff. What do they say about electric vehicles? Are they fully behind it?
Yeah, I mean, it you've got a huge different departments and different sectors within all local authorities. So each one is slightly more challenging. And so for argument's sake, I talk about Meals on Wheels. When we put our meals and change them over, put charging infrastructure over them, I've not heard from them for 5 years. I see them, but I see them going round and peep, 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 and they delivering old people's food. I see them, but I never hear from them because they work. Then you'll go do exactly the same thing in a different department, no names, and you suddenly get the whole thing doesn't work. This is madness, and why would you do this and everything like that? So it is people related, but I've always found that if you get from a council point of view, if you get the union reps involved early doors, if you get them sitting in that van or the car driving about, they'll go back to their members and say, well, I found it's okay. And that really drives it forward. Where we are at the moment is we're sitting about 36% of all our vehicles are electric. But as you know, there's the delay of getting that infrastructure in. And we have got enough infrastructure to expand quite quickly, especially on vans. I mean, we will not stop on the vans now. We will. So the construction department has got 230 vans, all on one site. I've built, as I talked about in episode 50, we built this infrastructure solely for them. Now, what I've found is, personally, once you start putting in 50 vans in one go, you need to let that time to settle for them to manage the situation. If I tried to put in 200 vans in one go, or, it's all relative. If British Gas have got 1,000, you would only put in 100, because you need to get that settled and for them to understand, especially on what I want, which is nighttime charging, cheaper rates, slow charging. Get in the van in the morning, you're not going anywhere near the rapid charging system. So there is a lot of education, slow education that needs to be done. So I can, as I said, go out to the market, get a lot of electric vans and throw them in right now. But the more you put in at one go, the more difficulty you've got. So it's just a timing thing. But I have enough infrastructure, and that's you need to get that in and then start.
It's wisdom being the better part of valor, isn't it? In the particular case, rather than just kind of making it a problem, you make it better. But Fraser, as people listen both to episode 50 and to this one, you have achieved an incredible amount over the last 14, 15 years. And as John says, award-winning, standout. And you have invested your very self into this whole project. But I think it's worth us we chatted recently and learned a little bit about how the last year has been for you. And I really think there's value in just exploring getting maybe the balance right for you as a human being in order to be able to carry on. The last year has been tough personally for you. Just talk us through that a little bit.
I'm quite easy to talk about this now. It wasn't so easy 6 months ago. I said in episode 50, plugging that again, all about how I was. My background is my dad is a farmer, and a work ethic got from him. It was through me. Get into work as many hours as you can to get the job done. That still is in there, right ingrained. And as a young man, that's what you sort of do. And I honestly, on my health wise, that's what we're talking about here. I felt some days I wasn't feeling great. Some days I had a headache, but I just thought, you know what? You just crack on. You just keep going. Whatever you do, just ignore that, because the best thing to do is work really hard and we'll get rid of it. And it was a Monday. I'd watched Chris Hoy on the television. Like I'm sure a lot of the people listening to this have seen Chris Hoy's situation, and sadly my uncle died from prostate cancer a long while ago. My family have got a history of it, so my wife started at me saying, "You need to get tested," etc., etc. And do you know what? The Chris Hoy thing really did put me over. I think, yeah, you're right. Because how if that man? So I actually was, the crazy thing I did was I was meant to fly to Valencia with my family on a Tuesday. And on the Monday, I made an appointment with the doctor, and I went in and said, look, I just want to get this blood test. I know it'll be when I come back. And she said, okay, no bother. We'll just take your blood pressure. So I knew the minute I saw her face that there was something wrong. So after she took it 4 times, she said, the only place you're going is you're going to the chemist to pick up these blood pressure tablets because you are 210 over 134 and you're imminent of, well, it'll be a heart attack. If you get on that plane, I can't guarantee that you'll land alive. That's how bad it was.
Wow.
And it was, she goes, this is sky high. And then they actually brought in 3 different machines to make sure the machines were working. I did joke with her. I thought, am I top of the table? But there was no joking going on there. And then to be honest, I mean, it just the message is quite simple. Get out there, and if keep going to the doctors. And I know the doctors is hard to get to because you're on the phone and you can't get in. But persevere, right? And if you just feel there's something a little bit wrong, just go and get your checks up. Just go and get those prostate checks. Luckily, my prostate check has come back negative, which is a real positive. Good. However, the journey I've taken to get those tablets, to get my blood pressure right, has been quite difficult. So I can only thank enough the doctors and everything for getting it right. But my message out there is, do get yourself checked out. You are not indestructible. You have the old Scottish adage, with the Scots, we'll never always trip on.
They'll never take us.
Yeah, I know. They'll never take us. Well, there's not, but one little blood pressure. Well, I'll tell you this much: I wasn't running up and down the hill very often for that first 3 months. So that's So thankfully, I'm a lot better now, and feeling good. But have made some changes in my life to say, you'll not be surprised. Anything that looks nice, anything that looks lovely and full of cream or looks like really nice, I have to say no to. And anything that's green and doesn't look like it's going to have any flavour in it, that's for me. I have that. That's right.
Fraser, these kind of catalysts in life, they tend to make us focus on the priorities and what really matters. And, we deal a lot on this podcast with physical health and the impact it has, and also mental health and the impact it has. And all roads for people tend to lead back to what really matters. Can I ask you, as a man, not as a fleet manager, but as a man, what really matters now?
So obviously, it not be surprised that it's my family. My family. I mean, they are grown up now. They are, well, if they're meant to be grown up. So I have 4 children that I talked about before. They are now all left school. However, and not forgetting the most important person, which is my wife, Lucy, who we're now 34 years. I'm going to be married. I mean,
she must
not the
be
same these days.
Brilliant, mate. She must be an amazing human being.
She just has, a long time ago, she just shakes her head and looks away. That was from year 1. But she is, honestly, they talk about these things, they're all cliches. She's the rock here. She's the one that puts up with me coming home, giving it laldy about, well, I don't know, that the charging infrastructure, they've just don't know what they're doing, and she just sits and listens and goes, yep, here's your tea. And you need somebody like that, you really do. And she's intellectually probably far above myself. So, but she's really a lot. I keep talking about my mum and dad. My mum and dad, maybe not the most communicative person in the world. My dad, but he didn't need to be. He was the one when I was young and going off the rails and finding things like alcohol and all this sort of stuff. He was the guy at the end of the table that just needed to look at you and go, "Nope, you're not doing the right thing." And he's still in there. It's still in my head. But you need somebody like that. But I they're really getting on in years, but they were so influential. But also the team that I have around me at work. The guys that are around me at work, I've been worked with a guy called Paul Menzies for nearly 25 years. We're friends just as much as we are work colleagues. I've got, some of them, the Emmas and the Julia, and you've got Heathers of this world. Those people, when tough times get tough, like I just talked about, they're the people that rally around. And that's where I always go on about this whole thing about working from home is okay, but the difference of coming together as a team and seeing each other every day and talking about things that we've just talked about here it makes it a lot easier.
And Fraser, this seems to be a skill that you have, and I don't say this with tongue in cheek. You talk well, and you articulate the real meaning of you. And I think it's a thing that we men often, we're sort of going down a mental health route here, but it's not about mental health for you. It's just about being human, isn't it? It's just about, you want to talk and be open with people. You're an open book.
You're gonna say that, but I have all the Scottish traits. I really do at times. You want to see me after Greece beat Scotland 3-0. I was not communicating with anyone. The latest Dundee derby didn't make me feel any better. That's all I'm saying. But I tend to, I think I'll go back to it. I think it's my family upbringing, my dad, and it is the Scottish thing. Don't get above your station. Don't think you're better than anyone else. I don't. I look at the guy who's emptying my bin out there and think to myself, you know what? He's put a shift in. He's got up at 6:30 in the morning and I think the society can sometimes forget that. I mean, sometimes I think I'm on a different planet because you get all these messages. Look at the food I've got today, and they go bing. They put up food. I remember sitting in the kitchen and my dad saying, "You never ate that yesterday. You never ate that the day before. You never ate that the day before. You'll eat it today because you're not getting anything else." And then that sort of upbringing keeps you on level. And I'm sure there are lots of people that think I talk nonsense half the time, but I just, as you say, I say what I think and try and keep my feet on the ground is probably what I would say.
Nice. And I think that's what endears you to everybody. I mean, we love listening to your story and the journey that you've been on, and thank you for sharing. I think it's really important that we reflect on, whilst we're all doing something wonderful, right? Trying to save the planet, and we are trying to save the planet. We are trying to improve local air quality, and I would recommend people listen to the episode 50 where we talked about that and Dundee's unique environment and the way it's set up. But the future beckons, right? And we've got lots of challenges, and we have the tradition which you've already taken part in. So you're one of few people that are going to get, well, I was going to say the magic wand. Today it's the magic pencil because that's what I have. It's a slightly diminished wand, so I wish for a better wand. But no,
you've said that before.
My mum and dad might be watching this, John. Behave yourself.
Absolutely. So, Fraser, I'm going to hand you the magic pencil. There we go, and you can take that little baby.
Thank you.
And as if by magic, it appears. Yes, indeed. So, Fraser, what is it? Like, you've had a year now to sort of think on a little bit and think about what is next. What is next for Fraser? What is next for Dundee City Council? What is next for the electric revolution, if you like, if you want to call it that? What is it that you would wish for right now?
Right. So one of the things that I'm frustrated is probably the word that I would use as we move over. Yes, I think we've got it. I think we're putting in infrastructure, etc. But back to that piece that I keep going on about, the energy, the renewable side of it. What I'm seeing is, I'm going to go for this, people who should know better. People that are the actual dinos of this country are putting up infrastructure, and they're just putting chargers up, and they will get their return on that. But there is no element of renewable energy in the actual structure that they're building. And I think this is another area where hopefully government can help us here. So yes, the private industry are putting all this charging infrastructure in, etc. It's good. But can we look a wee bit further down the line? Can we open our brains up a little bit more and see this whole vehicle to grid scenario? Now, vehicle to grid has been a hard road to go down. You know, we've been trying this for a while, but it is coming. It is coming. And can the government please, hopefully, see that the buildings and vehicles and energy are all one and the same? I know that British, so Royal Mail have got a really good project if people want to look at that, how they've kind of put that together. I know that Nigel Morris in Wales, he's been working on this for many years. Clever guy, right? But I would love to see this as in people getting that out, that communication out to people going, don't just think of this as just the charger in the vehicle. Think about that bigger. That's what I wish coming forward. And that's going to be a challenge for me as well as the funding, but hopefully and I use this one. I mean, we've got a school. I think I said this in the last episode. A school, it's amalgamating two schools together. They built it. It's going to cost 100 million. It's going to bring in a lot of kids from all around the area. It's a fantastic building. But what the whole journey that we've done is that they have got a solar power across all the buildings. They've got a power unit. And then they came to me and said, would you like to put in infrastructure, maybe for public charging in the community, etc. And by the way, we've just created all this energy. So that sort of joined up thinking,
clever thinking
is again music to my ears, and I go, we're getting somewhere, and I'd love to see that across the country. And when the government are talking about new housing, building, all this sort of stuff, we need to get some policy in place to be saying we need to have cars charging here. We need to have, and what do we need for that? And how clever ideas of building 10 houses, and can we have infrastructure that works for all? That sort of joined up thinking is where I want this country to go now.
Yeah, and do you know what, Fraser? I think that is a perfect wish, because I think looking at the horizon is something that we often forget when we're in the weeds. You know, we're in the weeds of putting in a charge point, of getting a new electric van. And one of the things that I've learned over the last few years is the electric van really is, I mean, yes, very feasible. Yes, very viable, and certainly delivers on a lot of different fronts. But we need to think bigger. And one of the things, one of our sponsors, AW Energy, have kind of created wind turbines on onshore, directly powering chargers and a Starbucks in the not too distant future. But they're also their vision is to put a wind turbine in a community and kind of create the community around them with all the charging, and almost like you never use the grid. And that's what the beauty of that school that are amalgamating. We've got to think bigger. We've got to think control of our own power. We've got to think about the batteries that could then provide energy back to the grid, whether it be in an RCV, a refuse collection vehicle, or an LCV, like commercial vehicle, or, and we can send that energy back. We can bring that energy in. There's so much to do. Great wish. Well done. John, I'm loving some of these wishes that we get at the end of a podcast. John, summarize this for me. I mean, it's just amazing.
Fraser, you're one of those people who always understates your impact. You don't fully get how influential you are. And Paul talked about taking a small thing and making it huge. It's easy to say, here's a public official who looks after a fleet and, has electrified a few vans. You're anything but that. You're the man who, for Scotland, set out what can be done by doing it. You're the person who goes on the road and Australia calls and says, listen, mate, we've got some things going on. Can you help us? You are shaping the world. And you mentioned your parents. They should be incredibly proud of you and all that you have achieved. Your time here, my friend, has never been wasted. Look after yourself and your health, because it's good for you, it's good for your family, and it's good for the rest of the world, mate.
John, Paul, I appreciate all the time. I appreciate the nice comments. As usual, I'm going to get slated for that. Unbelievably. They're going to say, has John been drinking? Why did he come out that for?
Teetotal, my friend. This is without drugs or anything.
So, but yeah, I've really enjoyed it. It's always good. It's like going to a psychiatrist, isn't it? Get it all, spiel it out, and just throw out what you've got there. And now for the next 6 months, I'm going to be challenged on. But you said on EV Cafe, but I'll throw it right back to you. You guys do a brilliant job. Paul, first of all, on the niche, it feels like it isn't. There are so many issues with vans out there, and it changing all the time. And your knowledge and having the ability to go, yeah, I think so. I'll throw it back at you. You can go, yeah, I think you're right, but maybe you're not, is a breath of fresh air, as opposed to people just trying to say, nope, we've got the best things to slice bread. At least you're able to independently make that decision. So I really do listen to what you've got to say as well. And as for John, well, John, I know you very well because we've known each other for many years. And what I would say is to people out there, many people have probably seen you at all these events and you presenting, holding all these conferences together, but you are a great person doing that, but you're a far better person speaking person to person. And I think that anybody that knows speaking to you person to person knows what a really, really great guy you are. And I've really enjoyed our time today.
Bless you. Thanks, mate.
Well, I can amen to that, Fraser. He is a very, very good man. The public man is only bettered by the private man. And
agreed.
Yeah.
Are we done yet? Can we go?
Well, we can see everybody's kind of feeling, oh no, not me.
Oh dear.
But we love it, don't we? And it's really great because we can't really be wallflowers if we're going to make a difference. And sometimes you got to stand up for what you think is right and make a noise. Fraser, you make a lot of noise around all of the right things. John, you just make lots of noise, and I make lots of noise about vans. So right. It's all good.
Anyway, yeah. Thanks, guys.
It's been a pleasure. So everybody, thank you for spending time with us today. Check out Fraser's other podcast. Yeah, you don't say that very often. And also the very many other ones. They're all on our website, or you can go to Spotify or Apple. Please do leave a review. You can click those 5-star thingies and sort of say how wonderful it is to listen to Fraser and hear about all the charging infrastructure and all of the plans and all of that sort of stuff, and how lovely John is. And maybe you might say something nice about me too. Or Sarah or Sam, or unlikely Sam, we know. But anyway, but the reality is we're having a lot of fun doing these things, but please do encourage others and share the love. But with all that said, thank you for listening and have a great day.